All right, so here's another word problem I want to take a look at. And this particular word problem is going to be all about trying to look at this from a real life perspective and trying to see what answers reasonably make sense and crossing off ones that are really dumb that don't make sense. Um, this is really important because this problem is not very challenging, but if you set the problem up incorrectly, then all of a sudden you're going to get one of those wrong answers over there. When we come up with our wrong answers for this multiple choice test, we don't just randomly pick numbers. We actually go through and say, what are the errors that students make? Let me complete the problem using that error and see what I get. And those are what we actually put for the incorrect answers. So just because your answer appears there doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. So let's read through this. We've got a wire needs to be attached to support a telephone pole, and because of surrounding buildings, sidewalks, and roadways, the wire must be anchored 27 feet from the base of the pole. A technician uses 50 feet of wire and attaches it to the pole and to the stake on the ground. Now, to the nearest foot, determine how high from the base of the pole the wire can be attached. So, we have 50 feet of wire. So let's picture that. So picture yourself as a technician. You have 50 feet of wire coiled up around your arm, and you're getting ready to climb up the pole. And you're going to climb up the pole, and you're going to drop some of this wire down to your buddy on the ground, who's then going to be at the base of the pole, and he's going to walk out and stake it into the ground until it's taut, until it's straight. So if you picture this, so you literally picture yourself as the worker that's going to climb up the pole. So let's say you have your 50 feet of wire and you climb. Let's go ahead and start off looking at C. And you'll see why I want to look at C in a second. So you go ahead and climb 57 feet up the pole. And you have 50 feet of wire. And you hold on to one end of your 50 feet of wire and you drop the other end down to your buddy on the ground while you are 57 feet in the air. If you are 57 feet in the air and you have 50 feet of wire, your buddy down here needs to start jumping at it just to grab it. He can't reach it, which means he also literally cannot walk the other way with the wire. So this answer doesn't make any sense at all. If you have 50 feet of wire, you're not going to climb 57 feet up the pole with your 50 feet of wire to drop down to your buddy. Which means surely you're also not going to go 77 feet up because that's even dumber. So let's go on the other end of the spectrum. Let's say that you climb 23 feet up the pole and you have your 50 feet of wire that you drop down. So now your buddy can actually grab it. And so if you walk 23 feet up the pole and you drop 50 feet of wire down, your buddy then walks over by 27 feet, and you had 50 feet of wire. When you add those two values together, that's 50. So your wire is literally going straight down the pole and it's just sitting on the ground as your buddy goes over the 27 feet. It's not nice and tight. It's not taut. It's going straight down the pole and straight over. So 23 feet is also stupid. So before we actually did the real math of the problem, we actually know what the answer is ahead of time. We know that the answer should be 42 feet. And that is in fact the correct answer, which I will go through the math of that. But again, when it comes to a word problem, you should take some time to picture what's really going on and try to get a ballpark idea of what your answer should be. This problem is all about putting numbers into the right places. So we had 50 feet of wire, which should be easy enough to put the 50 in where the wire goes. Now the 27 feet is how far we went over from the base of the pole. And there's a couple of clues to tell us that that's where it goes, is on the bottom there. One of the clues is the word anchored. We're going to anchor this into the ground, so it needs to go over there. From the base of the pole, the fact that what we're being asked for is how high up the pole we're going. So there's a lot of clues to tell us where those numbers go. Now once we have this right triangle filled in, Pythagorean theorem should jump out at us, where it says leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. So if we just subtract our 27 squared to the other side and then take the square root, we should be getting the correct answer here. Now remember that you can't distribute the square root. That's where the stupid answer of 23 comes from, is you just ignore the square root and ignore the squares. That's not how things work. So if we just plug this into our calculator, where we have the square root of 50 squared minus 27 squared, we're going to get this answer of 42.08. There's your 42. So when it comes to word problems like this, we got to realize that that 42 is a rounded number. So it's not something that we want to try to back substitute in and try to plug back in to see which one works, because it's not going to exactly work because it's a rounded number. But that 42 does in fact work. It is the correct answer, and so we should be happy with that answer.